New Zealand's only prawn farm is located in the geothermal area of the central North Island near Lake Taupo. After years of trial and error, it's developed a winning business formula. It's incorporated the use of the natural resources its location provides with a rapidly expanding tourism venture.
Huka Prawn Park was primarily set up as a research and development project to see if we could grow these prawns in New Zealand. So the first 15 years of business was predominantly research and development, which is a high costs. The thing that makes the whole thing viable, and the reason why this site was chosen, was because of its close proximity to the Waikato River, which is a supply of fresh water, and the waste energy from the power station. We're in the hatchery. These are our broodstock tanks, approximately 200 prawns in here. Breeding ratio of 7 females to 1 male. This is about a 30-gram female, and her eggs at this stage are obviously bright orange, and over the next probably 4 or 5 days they'll change colour to a dark brown. A female this size could be carrying anything up to 50,000 eggs, and she'll do that probably 4 or 5 times a year. We've got a selective breeding program. Every time we'll harvest, we'll select a certain type of male and a certain type of female and keep them in these tanks for breeding purposes. We're now at a stage with the selective breeding that we've been doing that we've now got a domesticated base, and we believe that's got huge value for international opportunities. The patent on our system now gives us security and gives us something to market, and it's based on a high quality, safe filtration system. It allows us to start with very, very high water quality and to end with very, very high water quality. And that's what good husbandry comes down to, and a byproduct of that is good, healthy stock. We're in the nursery, which is a sort of middle stage of the prawn's life. So we operate a hatchery, a nursery, and grow out ponds. So they'll spend a month in the hatchery, then they'll spend up to 2 months out here, maximum. The temperature in this area is a pretty constant 28 degrees. The feed we import from an Australian company, it's a high protein fish pellet made up basically from byproducts of fish. It's a clean water system, once through system, so it's easy to see the prawns. We can see that there's no residual food left over at the end of the feeding process, so we know how much to feed them. At the end of 2 months, they'll weigh about 1 gram, and then we transfer them from here out to the ponds. Late January and February is when we stock our ponds for a mid-year harvest. So they're counting them. Very important to get the biomass and stocking densities at the right levels. For obvious reasons, we don't want to overfeed or underfeed. We work on food conversion ratios, and obviously water quality's got to be maintained, and if you've got the wrong biomass in there, it doesn't work. This is our spawning room. This is where we take the eggs off the females. We fill this up with brackish water to a certain salinity, put the females in here, cover the tank, trick them into thinking they're in the ocean. Turn our moon on, high-tech moon, and siphon the eggs out in that corner into a holding tank. We count them and then transfer them the next day out into our larval rearing tanks. These are our production ponds. This is one of 19 production ponds. And the guys are stocking this now with prawns that are around about 2 months old. They'll come out here and they'll live out here for another 5 months maximum. We've created an ecosystem in this pond, which is basically a food chain for the prawn. We like to have some colour in there, which is the zooplankton. It stops the sun hitting the bottom. We don't want that happening because that's where the filamentous algae will start growing and start creating all sorts of issues. At the end of 5 months, we basically pull a plug at the bottom end with a big filter on it and drain the pond and harvest the prawn. They then go to a sort of high volume, low temperature water wash, and then they go into an ice slurry. Then the team will spend the rest of the day grading those. We built a big restaurant for tourism purposes where our product could be sold. And over time, that's become quite an icon in this region, and so therefore it's become very busy. The income from the restaurant has predominantly underwritten the daily costs of the aquaculture project, which have been significant. This is our prawn fishing activity, and it was suggested to us probably 10 years ago by an ex-marketing manager. It's something they do overseas and it's quite popular. So we just did a few little trials, in-house trials, and sure enough, the prawns were happy to take a bait. And just a small bit of ox heart on a little 20 gauge hook and a barbless hook, and away you go. So now we've got over 1,000 rods ready for any one day, and so far our biggest day has been 781 people in one day. Our advertising says catch as many as you can, stay for as long as you like. The average person could catch 2 or 3 prawns. Some families will come in here and catch a dozen or 2 prawns, stay here most of the day. They are then able to take those prawns into our restaurant, and we'll cook them free of charge in the restaurant. They can sit in there and eat them. You won't get a fresher prawn, and that works very well for us. Sometimes the restaurant just gets too busy, and taking your prawns in there could take some time to be cooked. So we have a cooking facility, which is just an element on a timer. Push the button, it'll stay on for 5 minutes, heats the water to boiling, put your prawn in like a chip basket from the fish and chip shop. 2 minutes, out it goes. Cooked, done. The future for us is to develop that hatchery package, to make it to develop a strong brand with it, backed up with good science, and to continue with our investment into tourism. It's been a tough road. I believe we've turned that corner in the last 5 years and are starting to enjoy a proactive business rather than being a reactive business. And so we can now listen to what the customer wants and develop things towards their needs, as well as develop our hatchery technology offshore.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.